Hello everyone, hi. 5 o'clock, we're gonna slowly start. So yeah, welcome everyone. Hi, warmest greetings from Berlin, Germany to today's webinar about the PurityChrom software. My name is Paul, I work in the KNAUER marketing department and I'm here to have an eye on the chat. So please use the chat if you have questions and if there should be like technical issues or problems, please also let me know there. Unfortunately, our product manager, Anja, couldn't make it today, but that shouldn't be too much of a problem because we have excellent specialists here for you. With us are from our Applications and Academy department, Ulrike Kropp, and the deputy head of our sales, Markus Fuchs. Markus is going to start soon. And speaking of the chat, I will post a small survey for you if you like for our presenters to know what level you have, if you're an expert or if you're totally new to PurityChrom. So please click on the link and I'll tell them in a bit. That was it from my side. And I give the word to Markus. Have fun and see you later.
Thank you, Paul. So what should I say? This is not Hollywood. It's not Bollywood either. This is the KNAUER webinar studio. And we all welcome you to this, nice afternoon. We have around 20 centigrades while it was very warm last week. So I hope you're in a good mood and watch our session introducing the famous PurityChrom software. This is a software for preparative and FPLC use. It's a very versatile software, highly configurable. And all our users are enjoying it, I believe. So we are looking forward to, as Paul said already, to get some questions in from you. Ulrike is our application manager and was dealing much with the software, so she has a broad range of experience. I'm selling this software for a couple of years now, so I think we guess we can answer all your questions. So I think I can hand over to Ulrike. Would you like to start your presentation, please?
Yes, thank you, Markus. I'm not sure, Paul, are there some results from the survey? Or are we going to do this afterwards?
I'll have a look.
Okay. If not, I can start. That's no problem. If you want to share some results.
Just a moment. I think you start for a bit. I'm going to look into this forms thing.
Just interrupt me.
Go ahead. Yeah, thank
you. Okay, again. Also warm welcome from my side. So as Markus already said, my name is Ulrike Kropp. I'm working in our application department. I'm mostly specialized in FPLC and prep chromatography. And there we exclusively or mostly only work with the PurityChrom software. And today I would like to share some insights, introduce you to the software, show you some tips and some special features, and hope to convince you what a great software we have here. So I think I will start with my presentation. Yes, so first of all, I will give you a quick overview. PurityChrom, that's the software from KNAUER that we are selling with mostly all of our FPLC systems and also with mostly all of our preparative systems. So with the software, we can handle really easy, simple isocratic systems like these SEC system that you can see here, but you can also go up to really high, big prep systems working with quaternary gradients, really high flow rates. It also supports all of our fraction devices, so everything concerning fraction collection. And of course, as this is very famous for KNAUER, all of our detection techniques are supported, of course, by this software. So, I will give you some insights, share some of the basic, or give you an overview of how the software looks like if you're not familiar with the software already. So this is how the main window looks like. If you open the software, you can see in this main window, you can basically control everything. So the focus of the software, it is working with the preparative systems or preparative environment. So here the most important aspect is not analytical tools, it's more to control your system. So the focus here is to have very easy control of all your devices. You can use this for direct control during the methods, also of all your devices. You have functions like hold, jump to next line. You can change the flow rates, everything you need to quickly adopt your system to any kind of changes or to adopt your method during a run. Writing methods and also sequences is possible. Methods are called here time control files. This is a slight difference here, or something which is a bit unfamiliar for some people. We have a very intuitive analysis function, which I'm going to show you a bit later. You have some basic tools there, but as already said, in prep chromatography, mostly a lot of analytical tools are not really necessary. And I think I'm going to show you what kind of possibilities we have there. And we have very easy system visualization. I will show in the next slides, which is usually very impressive and shows you very easily how the software functions and also how your system works. And of course, we have functions like user administration that are really important for if you're working in a regulated environment, or also for universities, sometimes really important. And I'll show you some details about this later. So
short word for the survey. Sorry to interrupt, but looks like we mostly have beginners here. Not many answers though, but mostly beginners, just to let you know.
Yeah, it was somehow also expected that mostly people are interested who are not really working with the software, would like to get a bit more information. So I'm happy to share some information. And if there's anything missing, just use the chat function and ask me later or within the presentation. So the system visualization, this is a very typical system visualization here. This visualization is always customized. So for every customer buying a system, usually, this is also very special for KNAUER, they will have a very unique system. So also this visualization will always be adopted to your system. So depending on the pump you have, depending on the deflection devices, also here a lot of different valve options are possible. So it will always look a bit different and can be always customized. And what's special about this visualization is that you can control all your devices. So it will show you the flow rate, the pressure within the system. It will show you the wavelengths. Everything can be also directly controlled. So you have buttons. All of these buttons are functionalized. So you can directly control your flow. You can also change, for example, the wavelengths. You can see, for example, here in this phase, you could see the conductivity signal. Oops. And what I like the most, that you can also directly switch your valves by just double-clicking on your valves, and then you will see all the options, and you can just change the valve configuration, and also the flow path of the valve will change then directly, so you can see how the flow within your system goes. What is also possible, so we always, if you buy a system, you will get a visualization that we design for you, but of course it's going to be always customized again. If you say it's too many functions, we can make it more simple. If you need more functions, like for example, we can also add a gradient hold function. We can also add functions in there. So basically we can design it a bit according to your needs, and this can be also still adopted at your site. So the PurityChrom time control file, as already said, the method is called a time control file because it's basically this time control file that you can see here. If you open this window, you have basically the settings where you can where you program more or less all of the functions of your method. Then we have a timetable here. This can be either done in time, but also volume. So it will be done according to the time. And then you have a graphical editor, which is usually very nice if you're working with gradients, because then you can also see how your gradient would look like. What also is special here, the time control file for the PurityChrom, which is a really great tool that I especially like, that we now also have the possibility to use the variables. So a variable in this case, for example, is that you do not use a directly defined flow rate, so you don't have to use with the well, not that you use like 50 milliliter per minute, but you can also define it as a variable. So later on, if you're going to start your method, the software will ask you again, so are you really going to use 50 milliliter per minute, or would you like to use a different flow rate? So then depending on if you're, for example, in a hurry, you can increase your flow rate, or if you say, I would like to make an overnight run, you can also decrease your flow rate, or you know that I don't know, you have a lot of time, then you can also change your method according to this. And the variables are not only used, for example, for the flow rate, but it's very easy to explain it with this. You can also use it for the solvent composition, for the wavelengths configuration. You can use it for limiter functions, so for your fractionation function. Valve positions can be controlled by a variable. So you have a lot of options here to make your method more flexible. Another really great tool is also that the programming mode, you can program your methods either time-based, volume-based, or even column volume-based. Depending on which field you're coming from, we observe this quite often. So people coming more from the FPSC field, so really purifying proteins, they are used to write their methods volume-based or even column volume-based. So they prefer to write their methods according to this programming modes. But if people are coming more from the prep field, they are very used to a time-based method writing. So you can use all three of these options. And the nice thing is also if your colleague is preferring the time-based method writing, you can still switch back to volume. So you can also switch your method with this programming mode, which is usually very handy and fits them better to the method that you are used to. So this is another option we have there. We still also have next to the methods, you can also use the sequence table. Sorry for that. The sequence table can be also used as something which is more known by most people, like a run queue. So the sequence table is usually used with an autosampler. Of course, PurityChrom also supports an autosampler, but this is not the most common injection mode. Usually this is more used in the analytical world. You can use it, but also we also have the possibility to work with sample pump or classical injection valve. But you can also use the sequence table here as a run queue. So you can have a row of different methods that will be proceeded then according to this sequence table. You can activate or unactivate these rows, and you can also change the sequence table during your run. So you can always add a method or delete a method, or maybe you would like to repeat the method again. And this can be always done while your methods are running. So you have a lot of flexibility also there, which is quite nice example for method scouting or something like this. And of course, in everything which has to do with fractionation, which is, of course, if you're working with in the prep mode or also in FPSC, usually your aim is to purify something at the end of your separation. So PurityChrom supports all of our fractionation devices. So we have 2 fraction collectors that are possible, but you can also use a more price attractive option. So you can also use all of our multi-position valves that you use as a fractionation valve then. And also from the techniques, the very classical one would be time-based or volume-based, depending on your programming mode. So you can basically say like every 5 milliliter, I would like to collect a sample. That is possible, but we also have the option here to use threshold or even sampling. So in a threshold, you're using the most common way here is to use your UV signal, and then you just say everything which is above 100 milliAU, I would like to collect. Sampling is a bit more complex. There you also have the possibility to use slope sensitivity. You can collect peak shoulders. It is a really high-end sampling method, and usually it is a really great option, but it also requires some optimization steps. Extended threshold options. As I already said, the threshold function is one of my favorite functions there, and I think we will also show you some special features where you can especially use this threshold function. The threshold can be used with a lot of channels. So the classical one would be UV for the fractionation, but you can use it basically for all of our detector channels, for the pressure channels. You can also use it for gain port inputs that we are using for air sensors. I'm going to explain this a bit later, but you can also use it for logic gates, virtual switches, a lot of other functions which give you a lot of freedom to design methods according to your needs. So if you're using the threshold functions, you can not only use a huge variety of channels, but you can also define a huge variety of triggered actions. So the most classical one would be, of course, to control your fraction collector, but you can also use functions like stop function, hold function, restart functions, continuing your run. You can use gradient hold functions. You can change valve positions, flow rates, and a lot of other options you have there. So if you would like to think about some special things you would like to include into your methods, you can also talk to us and we can happily assist you including some threshold functions there. So the data analysis, as I already said, is also very easy and intuitive with the PurityChrom. As already said, it's a preparatory software, so there are not a lot of analytical tools, but there are some really basic ones which I would like to show you now, and we prepared a little video for this. So for this, you're going to open the chromatogram window. Under the reconstruction window, you can basically open you already run the method you are going to analyze. You can click and declick then some functions, peak windows, but also you can show you the gradient, the fractions you collected, and of course it will also show you all the channels, but you can also activate or deactivate them in case you would like to have a more simple version. During the run, you can also see the protocol. So this is basically the timetable function, but it will show you also if you interfered within your method, it will show you everything that happened. And so again, the fraction table you can see here, it will show you which volume was collected. And then it will also show you the peak results. There's an automatic integration. You have retention time, height, and also area of your peak. And additionally, you have the possibility to see column coefficients, which can be nice to evaluate the performance of your column. And what is also possible to drop a line to then see, for example, here for your peak, at which gradient, at which solvent composition your peak eluted. Another option is also to use this for DAD samples, where you would like to see a spectrum. If you use this function, then you can, by clicking the mouse, you can also open your DAD spectrum and you see your three-dimensional data by clicking over it. And you also have the possibility by just scrolling all over your chromatogram, you will see then your DAD spectrum. So of course we don't see a peak here, so there's not a lot to see. But if you're going to the second peak, you will see then your 3D data at this time point. So DAD is also a possibility that is supported by PurityChrom. And the last thing, which is probably also really interesting, how can I export my data? Two options. You can export it as CSV file, which can be easily opened with Excel. So you then have basically all your data in an Excel file, and you can just proceed going on to design the chromatogram that you would like to see. And another option, if you don't like to make your own chromatogram, you can also use the export functions here to make a report, which can be either printed or printed as a PDF. And there you have the options to have separate windows, to have all your chromatograms. You can basically have all the information that were measured or more or less common during your chromatogram. So if you open this PDF, then you will see that all of the file name and data will be there. you have the chromatogram. You can either have an overlay of your chromatogram, depending on your choices. You can have an overlay of your chromatograms, or you can also have separate chromatograms. You will see your fractions. You will have all the additional information that you maybe are not programmed. You will have also a peak table and, of course, a fraction table. A checklist, which was not used here. And then you will also have, of course, your timetable and the run protocol, which will show you if something happened during your run. So this works really easy, and then it's very easy to also have all your data very easily integrated. Okay, that was everything according to what that had to do with the data analysis. And now I would like to explain some special features that from our experience is mostly some really interesting for the FPSC or prep customers. And for this, yeah, I would like to talk a bit more about fractionation. So here, fractionation by peak recognition. So it basically means that the software will recognize a certain peak. We can do this using the threshold function. So it is also threshold based. And I have this chromatogram here, and then it's just an example, but of course we can just imagine that we are interested in the last peak, peak number 6 here. And what you do then is that you have this threshold function here. So everything which is above this threshold that we would like to collect. So the only thing that you need to know, usually we make something like an assumption, is that you need to know which is the threshold level that you will need for the programming of this function. And how does it look like if we have a look at the threshold function? So for fractionation, usually for FPSC, people are measuring the UV signal. So UV at 280 is very classical. So for this, we will go to collect, we will choose the UV signal. You will define a window. So usually this will be then elution window or the gradient where you know that your protein is eluting from the column. So in this case, it is here from 10 to 20 milliliter. So in this time point, the software is more or less looking for your peak. And then we define the value or the threshold values. So everything that is bigger than 50 milliAU that we would like to collect. And for this, we also have to define the over, and this is the over event and this is the under event. So once your threshold is over 50 milliAU, then you just program within the method that your fraction valve is going to switch from the waste to the fraction position. And of course, you also would like to stop fractionation if you are going under the event, so under 50 milliAU, then of course your fraction collector or the fraction valve of your fraction collector is going back to the waste position. And what we always really strongly recommend also to include is to have this step to the next position. So this basically means, so if I collected a peak that is, for example, I collected 20 milliliter, but I still have a limiter. So that means that my fraction collector knows that he always wants to collect 50 milliliter. So that means that your tube is not full yet. If the software is recognizing a second peak, it would collect then your peak in the same tube. And to prevent this, you always just tell him step to the next position. So you make sure you're already collecting your new peak into a new fresh tube. Okay. That's everything that has to do with the fractionation. Another really nice option that is also quite nicely supported by PurityChrom is the pressure measurement. For a lot of FPSC customers, this is really also a really important option, because the classical system, you always have the pressure measurement for your pump. So you will measure the system pressure, and this is also if you use a pressure limit there, this is the pressure limit that will protect your system from an overpressure. Mostly in FPSC, this is not extremely important, because then also here usually the columns are very pressure sensitive, so you will it's very unlikely to exceed the pressure limit of your system. Because these columns can be so pressure sensitive and also really pricey, we are having some extra pressure pressure measurements. So you're going to use a pre-column pressure that we're going to measure and a post-column pressure. The pressure that we're going to measure before the column, that is a pressure limit that protects the column hardware. So if you have too high pressure there, it can happen that your column will break. Usually these columns are made of glass, so you prevent these columns to break. If you then also measure the pressure after your column, we can make a very simple calculation. So you're going to just use the pre-column pressure minus the post-column pressure. So we call this the data pressure. And this is the pressure limit, or this is the pressure that is on your pressure on your column bed. So within your column, you usually have some polymer-based or agarose-based material, which can be also really, really expensive. And you want to make sure that you're not ruining the resin that is in your column. So that's why you're using a pressure limit on this data pressure. I hope that was clear. And how can you do this within the software? So we also have the option here to use a user-defined channel, and the user-defined channel is very easily, you can use at the pre-column pressure, and you use here this function minus the post-column pressure, and this is then the data pressure that is calculated from software. And also here we can use very nicely our threshold function. So in this case, we don't use the UV signal, but the data pressure signal. And for example, we have a column that has a pressure limit of 5 bar, so it should not exceed 5 bar. And what we're going to program there is then if you have a pressure that is going above 5 bar, then the PurityChrom, in this case, we decided to hold the run. So if it only holds, you can still have a look at the system, see if there was a reason for an overpressure. You could, for example, change this and then continue your run. Another option is, of course, also to stop the run. Okay, so another nice tool here is also that PurityChrom supports our air sensors. Air sensors are used to protect your column from any kind of air within your column, but they are also used to have something like an automized sample injection. So this is usually used if you have not only if you don't have small amounts, but rather large amounts of sample that you would like to apply onto the column. So usually you work with a sample pump there. And if you, for example, have something like roughly half a liter of your sample that you would like to pump onto your column, you don't exactly know how much of your sample you have, but you would like to make sure that all of your sample is applied onto your column, then you're going to use the air sensor. So you program it in the method that the sample pump is pumping as long as it detects air. So if it detects air, then of course also your sample, the bottle with your sample is then empty. And this also is done via an air sensor or via our threshold function. So here you can use then the air sensor function. So the threshold here functions like this, that once the air sensor is detected, so this is then the over event, you have several possibilities to include this into your method. The one that I prefer the most is that you just include here PurityChrom jump to next line. So it will jump within your method, it will jump to the next line and then proceed. If you applied your sample, then usually you would like to start your washing program. So it will then start with the washing step, which is then, of course, the next step within your method. There are also other methods. We also have all of these different methods explained in our air sensor supplement. So if you would like to have some more information, you can also check it in there. Okay, then we will go on with some extra tips and tricks. So we thought about the things that we like the most about the software, and I usually from our feedback from the customers, we know that these are things that they really like about the software and that will help you to easily write your methods that you can use later on for your purification. So something that is really handy for us is the checkbox and the user input. It sounds really easy, but these are basically questions or input that you have to give before a method start. Examples that we hear from the field are quite often things like, so for example, that you have to check, is the waste emptied, so that you don't have an overflown event, or that your buffer is refilled. Or for example, also something that happens quite often, that the rack of your fraction collector was emptied, or that you exchanged all the tubes there. You can also use a user input. So for example, you ask for the sample that you're going to inject to make also sure that everything is correct there. And that looks like if you start your method, he will always ask you before starting your method, he will ask you this. And so you have to actively click on OK. So you really have to make sure that you've done this. And here for the user input, you also have to write in something. So you have to write in, I'm now purifying protein ABC or something like this. And then you can only apply and start your method. Now we also have some special tips during method writing, because we cannot show everything today concerning method writing, but we decided to show you some nice tips and tricks that makes it really easy to write your method. And we also prepared a little video for this. So of course you have to open the time control editor, and usually you can start with typing in all the information, but you can also use the function that we have here. So you can also import specific parts of your time control file. So you see then already your author is in, you have some solvent information, and this you can also use then for all the functions that you're going to use. So you can also have something like pre-written method, or for example, that you have your template method, for example, here for size exclusion chromatography. So you can always load your method and then just do some minor changes for changing the flow rate or the injection. What is also really nice is that you can use the simulation mode. So if you open then here also the visualization, it will show you all the functions. If you click on it, you will see this also in a red box in the visualization. Is especially nice for the fraction for the programming of the valve, because then you can also see how the flow is going through all of your valves. So you really make sure, for example, here for the injection valve, now I'm really in the inject position, which is quite important for your method, I think. What you can also use here, that you can load an already run chromatogram and use this chromatogram to make some changes or to adapt your method. For example, here the method was too long, so I can also, by this drag and drop, I can also shorten my method. I can use it with one function, but I can also use this for a complete time window and make changes here. This can be also really nice, for example, for shortening a gradient. Of course, also threshold functions can be adopted here. You have a lot of varieties here, or a lot of things you can very easily change to well, adopt your method. In case you did something where you say, oh no, I completely ruined it, you can just clear it, and then the timetable is empty again. You can start again, load something new, or just write the method that you like. Okay, so these are some really basic things about how to write a method, or which makes it how to make very easy method writing. And yeah, this is some special tips and tricks. Something else which is also really a nice feature for customers working with the sequence table. So a lot of customers also use this, for example, like a run queue. You can also import or export your sample list. You just have this function here via the table. So if you've written your sequence table, you can export it. This will be then shown in an Excel file. And the nice thing is also you can make all the changes also within your Excel file, and then import it again and load your sequence table here. So especially for long sequences, it can be we more or less advise also to do this then in an Excel file. What we also have is an intelligent rec view. So you've done your run, you fractionated all your protein, and well, in this case, these are only 5 fractions, but sometimes you really collect like 100 fractions. So, and then you're going to pick the important fraction from your rec. So you want to make sure that you have the right peak or the right protein that you're going to collect also from from your rack. And so you can also use this function that you see. Then you have the peak and the according, or you see the peak and the according tube to really make sure that you have the right position or the right spot that you're going to use later on, that you purified. One last thing is also that I already talked about user administration. So all the functions that are described now, like changing everything during a run, having full control over your method, this can be done by anybody who has user or the administrator rights. But as already said, we quite often notice for universities or regulated environments, it's sometimes also needed that you have users that have limited rights. So for example, that you can only load a method, but you cannot change a method. So sometimes this is also really important, and this can be easily done by our user administration, where you have the possibilities to give different users different authorities. So these were special features, tips and tricks all about the PurityChrom software. And now we would like to also show you some of our services. So in case you're interested in working with Purity or would like to get more knowledge, more in detail knowledge, we also have a lot of things to make lives more easy for you. But first of all, just a few things about the license of PurityChrom. So we have a very cost attractive or price attractive basic license. The only drawback is here that you can only use 3 data channels. For a lot of customers in the prep world, this is more than enough. But of course, sometimes you need more data channels. Then you can also have an upgrade for the PurityChrom. You can use up to 8 data channels, and you have an unlimited number of control devices. And we also have additionally also a 3D option, so you can use the DAD in case you would like to see the spectrum of your protein or the sample that you're going to purify. And we also have an MS option, so you can also integrate a mass spectrometry. So these were the license that you're going to buy with your system, but also a very nice tool or option we have with the PurityChrom. You can download from our webpage, you can download our free demo version. So in case you would like to, you're interested in the software, you can download it, check online and then check a bit how you like the software, how easy it is to work with this. But this demo version can be also used as an offline version. So you have then one license used to control your system, but also data evaluation or the method writing. You can also use your offline version and you can just do it in your office then. The good thing here is also that you can also have all the free updates with this demo version. You can always just download it and use this to have always the newest version of the software, because you can get all the updates also with this. So if you're still a bit unsure about PurityChrom, we also do software and system demos. So if you would like to get a bit more detail or would like to get a bit more details about the software, especially concerning the system that you are interested in or concerning your methods, we can also do some demos. Usually we can do this at the KNAUER headquarters. Of course, we can also do it online. In the last years, we have a lot of experience with this. So if you're interested in this, just get in contact with the local sales representative and talk to them. If you also would like to see some online tutorials, we also have our KNAUER YouTube channel, and there we also have PurityChrom tutorials explaining most of the function of the software, so you can also check on these videos there. And then if you still think, well, I need some extra training, of course, we also have the PurityChrom software training. This can be either done on-site at your site, it can be at the KNAUER headquarters. Of course, software can be also easily done online. We have courses on a regular basis, but we also do it on demand, and also it can be done customized, so according to your needs. If you're interested in this, also again, get in contact with your sales representative or just get in contact with Academy at KNAUER. So the last thing that we just included now, because we also saw that we have a lot of customers interested in a method writing service, we can also provide this. So usually if you buy a system and it's installed at your site, it will be our our technical service personnel will install the system, and it will also train you on the software. And usually there you also do some method writing. But of course, you cannot write like 20 or 30 methods. And we sometimes have customers that would like to have 20 or 30 methods written. So we can also do this. Just get in contact with us. We have a questionnaire for this. This is also a possibility. Okay. So then I already come to my take-home message. So I hope I could convince you that PurityChrom is a very user-friendly software. You have a really nice functionalized system visualization showing you the whole, the complete flow path of your system, where you have very easy system control. Data can be analyzed really easily. And everything can be customized. So you can also really write method according to your needs, and you can integrate a lot of special functions there. And of course, we also will support you with a lot of service or support functions we have there. So we also really try to support you working with the software. Okay, this was everything from my side. I hope you have a lot of questions now, and I'm happy to answer all of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ulrike, for this very informative presentation. Here I am again. We actually have a couple of questions. We're going to get to those now.
Okay.
And as you see in the chat, I also posted the email addresses to get in touch with us. And of course, you can find loads of information on KNAUER.net on our homepage. So if you're ready, we are just going to start from the top.
Yes, I'm ready.
First question was, what do I use direct mode for?
The direct mode, I'm not sure which direct mode is. So the direct mode, I'm not
very certainly the function that you control the system directly.
Yes. So, I mean, there's not just one button that you use the direct mode, but direct mode means, so for example, you programmed your method and your method is running, but then you see, for example, your gradient is too long, or you would like to shorten something or need to elongate your gradient. So you can always change everything within if your method is running. So you can also change the gradient, for example. You can change the flow rate. You can change the valve position. So if you say, oh, there's a peak coming, I would like to collect it, you can also change the fraction collector valve. So everything is possible at this time point. And I think this is what you're referring to direct mode. Is this okay? I hope I answered your question.
All right, the next one, can I use an MS as a detector channel?
Yes. So as I said, for the license, there's also a special MS detector. If you would like to do this, just get in contact with us. We have one KNAUER MS detector. If you would like to use other detectors, I think we need to discuss this with our product manager, but just get in contact with us. It's possible.
Thank you. So next one, how many different data traces can I collect simultaneously?
Data traces. So you can collect up to 8 data channels. You can collect. Well, from our experience, this is more than enough. And then you have an additional user-defined channel that you can use for air sensor signaling. So 8 data channels. If I think about FPSC, usually you have 3 UV channels. Then you might have conductivity, but you can also use pressure channels, fluorescence detectors, sometimes possible. But I think I never had a customer that needed more than 8 data channels, but that's the maximum, 8 data channels.
All right.
Yes.
Can the threshold be adjusted for different peaks, elution times?
Yes. So for fractionation, I think you would like to use then that you have, for example, you have a bigger peak and you need to use a higher threshold value. You can use also multiple of these threshold functions. So if you integrate them within your software and within the method, you cannot only use one threshold, but you can also use 10 or 20 or 30. So for this, you can also use different threshold functions then. Yes, and also different windows for your threshold. That's possible.
Okay, 2 more to go.
Yes.
What is the advantage of a hold function compared to a stop?
The hold function with it basically it doesn't stop your method. So with the hold function, it usually it's a very nice option to just pause the run, and then depending on the function that you used, either the stop will the pump will stop. Excuse me. Either the pump will stop. So for example, this means that your method is stopping at a certain time point, for example, within the gradient, and then maybe you stopped your method because you would like to refill your buffer. You can refill your buffer and then proceed by continuing the run. You can proceed with your method. The other option is also that you can that you use the hold function and your pump is still running. So what happens then is, for example, if you're running a gradient and you pause or you hold during a gradient, so you make a gradient hold, you will have an isoquadratic step within your gradient in. So this is sometimes useful if you would like to, well, if your peak is eluting or not everything is eluting yet, and you would like to have an isoquadratic step to get all of your protein from the column. Okay.
All right, Ulrike, you're almost done. How are manual changes to a method documented?
So I think I already showed that we have a protocol, so the run protocol. So on the one hand, you have your method file or the time control file. So this is the method that you have written. But also, if you implemented some changes during the run, you have this protocol or the run protocol. So there you also see if any changes were done. So for example, somebody changed the flow rate, somebody changed the wavelengths. You will also see this within the run protocol. So all changes are in there. Nothing is lost.
Okay, seems like we're done here.
Okay.
As I said, please get in touch with us. We're gonna email you afterwards also. There's gonna be a recording of today's session. We are very happy that you were with us today, and stick around in our social media channels. We do these webinars once a month usually, so please visit us there, and of course our homepage. I think that was it from my side, and Ulrike, you did a terrific job, and
Thanks.
Markus,
do you want to add something?
Yeah, thanks, Ulrike, for that very nice presentation. Contained everything, also the license model. So that is important to focus again on the offline license that is always available. It is very helpful in the beginning when people start to come into that software. You saw there's a lot of planning instruments built in. So not to run behind your hardware, but exactly define what your system shall be doing. And so you are really in the position of make a complete plan of your experiments. And therefore, it needs a little while to come into these tables and program the whole thing. One thing I would like to add is, because we are, of course, focusing very much here on the preparative part, this software, of course, is also capable of just integrating peaks, yes, like every other of our software packages is doing. So thank you very much, Ulrike and Paul, for your help in this great session. And I hope everybody enjoyed it. And yeah, take home the take-home message. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thanks everybody. Stay safe and well. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye for now.